What's up, everybody? I'm Christian Nix. I'm the guy they call the Barefoot Doctor. I want to talk today about the timing of your illness, but also your recovery, right? So there is a certain element, an aspect of healing that does very much have to do with timing. The way we're going to address this is to notice and recognize the different times during a 24-hour cycle that your symptoms appear. If you have a chronic illness, you do not have one thing going on. You have multiple different things that are malfunctioning at the same time, and they are linked together. Like one thing over here at this time of the 24-hour cycle, we'll just call it a day, at this time of day or night is causing some part of the other symptom that's going on at this part of the day or night, right? So within that 24-hour circadian cycle, you're gonna have multiple points at which certain symptoms do appear and tend to appear over and over again in a cyclical kind of pattern at a specific time of day or night. So let me give you an example of this and talk about how this relates to specific organs. Because where we go after this is, once you know this, and once you recognize and understand what organ is affected at that time, and you can grasp how like this part of your condition is related to this particular organ is creating that problem at this particular time in the 24-hour cycle, you have tremendous power to fix that. That's where we're going. So anybody with chronic digestive illness, it almost doesn't matter what it is. Could be acid reflux, could be IBS, could be anything in between. Okay, but whether you have a problem anywhere in your digestive tract, one of the organs that will be affected 100% of the time is the liver. But what I mean when I say the liver is affected is that you're going to notice certain signs and symptoms that the liver is out of balance. Okay, and if you study ancient medicine the way I did, the liver only ever goes out of balance in one direction. Okay, it always overheats. Now, in Western biomedical kind of thinking, this makes total sense because what happens as you're aging, and certainly if you're ill, right? If you have a chronic kind of imbalance going on in your body, in your organs, your body has to work harder just to keep you in the same place. Like in other words, you're running in place just to stay alive, right? Your body's different processes, which we label as broadly as metabolism. Your metabolic processes must accelerate, right? You have to work harder. The body has to produce more glucose. The blood has to get washed out more and faster because your body is pushing hard, right? Either because you're ill or because you're stressed, right? Because things are really, really difficult, and or because you're aging, right? Aging takes a toll on the body. Your body is not as efficient. Your organs have to work harder to keep you in the same place. As time passes, you do not have the same efficiency. And the burden of that running in place, metabolic activity that has to take place is your liver. What time is the liver most affected in the 24-hour cycle? 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. If you wake up between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. or thereabouts, doesn't have to be exact, but if you consistently have this issue where your body, like maybe you just snap awake or you wake up very quickly or you just can't sleep past a certain time of the morning, that is always related to excess heat in the liver. So we know just by that one symptom that the liver is overheating. It is overburdened. It is working too hard. It has too much that it has to do to keep you going, and it is working so hard that it actually is overheated at night and you wake up because all that excess heat that's running around inside your body and your organs because of the liver's activity, it's actually so agitating to the body. You're so hot, you become so agitated that you can't stay unconscious and you wake up. Okay, so, and always that is happening between 1 and 3. That's not the only time that heat symptoms will show up. I'll talk about 3 p.m. in just a second. What other organs are related to what I call the pivotal organs? The pivotal digestive organs are also the pivotal organs that help you to heal your body on its own. If your digestive system works well, everything else basically works well. It's this thing here, the assimilation of nutrients and the elimination of waste, that makes all the rest of your body's systems work properly so that your body knows how to heal on its own. Fix this thing, fix the pivot, what I call the pivot, and your body will heal much of what else is going on by itself. It knows how to heal. It knows how to heal way better than your doctor, way better than any pill, way better than any outside kind of influence can do for you. Your body knows how to fix a lot of stuff. Your goal is to try to control this pivot, try to control this system that knows how to fix things on its own. It's the best thing I can teach you. Okay? If between, say, 5 a.m., could be 5 a.m., that's pretty early, but more like 6 to 8 a.m., if you show up with symptoms of digestive problems, usually this is going to be probably for somebody with chronic digestive illness. This is loose stools. Okay, this is somebody who is like chronically like, oh my God, my guts are so messed up, I have to run to the toilet. Okay, a lot of people with chronic digestive illness suffering from exactly that. Okay, it's a sure sign that something is wrong, not just in your intestines, but in your spleen as well, and possibly the stomach, depending. If it's stomach involvement, you're going to get burning in your stomach around 5 to 6 a.m. Somewhere in that neighborhood, right? This kind of problem shows up, and then especially if you eat breakfast, if you have any food at all, but even if you don't, right? If you have food and waste sitting in your intestines overnight, somewhere between 6 and 8, right? You're going to have some kind of evidence, either in terms of bowel movement, elimination, right? Gas, bloating, could be nausea, right? If your spleen is really weak and on the ropes, if your spleen is really overtaxed, tired, burdened, you can't really keep up, right? You're putting food in, but it's not really digesting well. Your spleen is like the fire of digestion, as I talk about elsewhere. If you think of the stomach like a pot, you put the food in the pot, and the spleen has to cook the food, metaphorically speaking. It has to cook the food and get the nutrients to come out of the food, okay? If you have loose stools, if you have chronic loose stools or nausea or like really messed up intestines, that's a weak spleen, guaranteed. And that will show up in the mornings, right? Not always, and not only in the mornings, but if it's constant that that's happening to you, your spleen is weak. It's exhausted. Okay. The good news is, right, you can do something about all of this. I'll get to that in a second. Just continuing around the clock here. The other big one that a lot of people suffer from, if you have chronic digestive illness and you get symptoms, especially heat symptoms, around 3 p.m., somewhere between 3 and 5 usually. It's like an afternoon fever where your body is so exhausted, overworked, you feel like a hot flash, right? A heat rush, a flush of heat runs through your body and you're like, whoa. Right? That kind of sensation, that is almost always related to two different and paradoxically opposing conditions in the body. One is called dampness and one is dryness, right? Or you run out of fluids, and so the healthy liquids and the humors, they're called, right? In Greek medicine, they were called humors, right? The healthy amount of fluids that are supposed to be in your body that will help not just hydrate you. We're not talking just about hydration. I'm talking about like deep tissue saturation where the body is hydrated but also full of good liquids that your body uses to keep you cool, to keep everything under control, right? Those fluids get used up as you age, and you can develop this hot flash that happens late in the afternoon, especially, or say between 3 and 5. It's pre-dusk kind of heat sensation, a heat flash that runs through you. Now, that can happen if you're too dry, you've used up all those fluids. It can also happen if you have too many of the wrong kind of fluids. Too many of the wrong kind of fluids means usually, broadly speaking, we refer to this as dampness. How you experience dampness is mucus, right? There's other forms of dampness, but if you have the other forms of dampness, you're primarily also going to have mucus. Okay, not in 100% of the cases, but for most people, dampness will be experienced as lots of mucus in the body. Could be in your joints, could cause head fog. If you get a lot of head fog, you're like, whoa, what's going on? And also post-nasal drip, right? You always have to clear your throat, or you always have some mucus dripping down in the back of your throat. That's dampness, okay? It goes other places in the body. I won't talk about that here, but dampness causes heat. Dryness causes heat, and you will feel that heat, especially in the afternoon. Around 3 p.m. is the typical time. So if you get that, you know your body is fighting something. You know your body is dealing with something that's probably chronic in nature because it didn't get in there yesterday. We're not talking about an acute fever here. That's not what I'm discussing. I'm discussing the person with chronic digestive illness who's been struggling for a long time, and now your condition has advanced to the point where you're actually getting hot flashes between 3 and 5 p.m., and you have lots of mucus, or you're very, very dry. Right? Why would you be dry? Well, heat causes dryness. So paradoxically, too much mucus in the body causes heat, which causes dryness, which is even harder to deal with, right? If you go to a doctor and like try to get treatment for this or like try to explain this, first of all, they think you're crazy and probably commit you to the psych ward. But if you try to get treatment from a modern Western medical kind of doctor for something like this, they might not even laugh at you, right? Like I said, they probably just think you're a lunatic. But you could not get treatment for this from a modern Western medical kind of regular mainstream doctor. They don't know how to treat this. I know how to treat it because I figured it out for myself, but also because I learned an ancient medical system that is really, really elegant at dealing with the kinds of things that happen to you in chronic illness. This is what's called functional medicine, right? It's all the rage now, but what a lot of people, right, who dabble in functional medicine don't understand is that the original model of functional medicine came from Asia about 2,500 years ago. The whole system is based on recognizing certain functional signs and symptoms, and they're easy things for you to recognize. Do you feel a hot flash in the afternoon? If you do, you know it, right? Do you wake up between 1 and 3 a.m.? If you do, you know that, right? That's proof positive that some kind of dysfunction is taking place in your organs. So timing of your illness. If you want to learn more about stuff like this, if you want to understand how your organs actually work in a way that gives you power to fix that, I do a thing called the Pivot Protocol Private Community. This is our coaching group that we put together. You get on a call with me and a few other friends once a week, and we talk about your condition, and I give you solutions for the exact stage that you're at. Each week, we make a plan that you go execute. You come back the next week, and then we talk about what happened, and then we make sort of review and revise, and then rinse and repeat until you finally get down the road to, look at this, not only have I healed my condition, condition, because most people do heal, it's actually very easy to do with something like this. Once you understand this system, you understand how to manage and recover from chronic illness. There's nothing really magical about it, although people who suffer from chronic illness and don't know that this exists think it's like, it's impossible, like you could never heal from that. And inside the private coaching group, we have people heal all the time and then just leave, right? So the way I set this up is we talk once a week, we create a plan for you to go execute, you go execute that plan, and then you report back, and then we figure out, okay, well, this worked, this didn't, that tells us this about your condition. Now we know what's going on with this organ, this is what's causing this over here. Okay, make these changes and go for it again. And the good part about the group community call is you also get to learn from other people's conditions. It doesn't mean you have to stay on the call after your particular interaction with me is over, but if you do, right, you're gonna hear something that somebody else asked, you're like, that's also happening to me, but I didn't really think of it until they just mentioned that, and now I know what to do about that too. So there's a kind of group learning dynamic. Sometimes group coaching is not the right dynamic. I think in this case, people with chronic illness, hearing how other people are dealing with and healing their chronic condition can have tremendous breakthroughs very, very quickly. I set this up so we have a minimum amount of time together. 6 months is optimal. And you can take what I'm teaching you every week and go forward and learn more about how to heal your condition on your own without using pills, without going back to the doctor over and over again, or wasting your money or dealing with insurance companies, and probably without taking a lot of pills and extra medications, although that is ultimately up to you. And standard disclaimer here, I'm not telling anybody to take medications or get off your medications. Talk to your doctor first, okay? But understand that this dimension of timing for your organs that allows you to target a specific organ, which you know based on the time at which the symptoms are showing up, you know that that organ is out of balance, you know how it's out of balance, you know exactly what's going on with it, and you know, if you get into the Pivot Protocol community group, you know what to do about that specific organ imbalance. That kind of targeted treatment for a chronic condition makes all the difference. This is completely different than anything you've ever experienced or come across within the mainstream medical system, so I hope you check it out. There's a button right below this. Please check it out, and I'll see you then. Remember, your body knows how to heal on its own.